I never believed that the most important truths could live quietly beside you, breathing the same air, sharing the same walls, and still remain unseen. I believed that love, once spoken and promised, naturally carried honesty with it. I believed that what mattered would always announce itself clearly. I was wrong. She sat across from me every evening, her fingers wrapped around a warm cup, her eyes calm, her voice steady. Aisha never looked like someone carrying a secret. She laughed at small things, remembered birthdays, folded laundry with care, and asked about my day with genuine interest. If secrets had weight, I never saw hers bend her shoulders. Our marriage was not dramatic. It was gentle, steady, and predictable in a way that felt safe. I worked, she managed her routines, and our lives moved forward side by side. We argued rarely, and when we did, it was over trivial things. I thought that meant we were doing everything right. The first crack appeared quietly. One evening, I came home and found the house darker than usual. Aisha was home, but she hadn't turned on the lamps she always preferred. She said she had a headache. Her smile was polite, not warm. I didn't push. I told myself people were allowed to have quiet days. Over the following weeks, I noticed small changes. She spent more time alone. She wrote in her notebooks longer than usual, closing them quickly when I entered the room. She checked her phone often but never in front of me. None of this was dramatic enough to accuse. Yet all of it added up to a feeling I couldn't name. I told myself trust meant ignoring doubt. One night, unable to sleep, I went to the attic to look for an old file. The attic was a place we rarely visited, filled with forgotten belongings and sealed boxes. As I searched, I noticed a carton tucked behind a stack of suitcases. It wasn't dusty like the rest. Someone had touched it recently. I pulled it forward and untied the string. Inside were papers, letters, handwritten. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. They were addressed to someone whose name hit me like a sudden loss of balance. A name I had never heard her speak with familiarity. A name that didn't belong in our home. I didn't want to read them. I truly didn't. But curiosity and fear are powerful companions. I opened one. The words were intimate, but not careless. They spoke of understanding, of comfort, of moments when the world felt unbearable. They were emotional, vulnerable, and deeply personal. They spoke of pain, fear, and connection. Some lines felt like longing, others felt like confession. I sat there for a long time, surrounded by pages that suggested a life I wasn't part of. Then I found a receipt. It wasn't dramatic either, just a piece of paper tucked into her wallet, a location she hadn't mentioned. My heart filled in the gaps before my mind could stop it. I followed her. I saw her walk beside someone else. I saw familiarity in the way they moved, in the way she leaned slightly toward him as they spoke. I didn't hear their words, but I felt excluded from them. I left before they noticed me. That night, when she returned home, she looked tired. Not guilty, not nervous, just exhausted. She told me she had been out running errands. I nodded. My silence felt safer than my anger. Sleep didn't come easily after that. When I finally confronted her, my voice surprised me. It didn't shake. It didn't rise. It was calm in a way that frightened me. I asked her who he was. She didn't pretend not to understand. Her face changed, not with panic, but with sadness. A deep, settled sadness, as if she had been preparing for this moment without knowing when it would arrive. She didn't deny him. She told me his name. She told me his role in her life. And then she told me the part of her life she had never shared with me. Before she met me, she had been sick. Not briefly, not lightly. Sick in a way that changes how you see your future. Sick in a way that makes fear a permanent resident in your body. He had been there during that time, not as a lover, but as a support. Someone who saw her at her weakest and didn't look away. Someone who understood her fear without needing explanations. When she married me, she wanted a new beginning. She wanted to be strong. She wanted to leave that version of herself behind. So she locked it away. The letters weren't sent. They were written. A way of surviving nights when the fear returned. A way of talking without burdening anyone. A way of releasing thoughts she didn't know how to speak aloud. The place I thought was a secret meeting wasn't what I imagined. It was a place of urgency, of concern. She had gone because someone she once relied on needed help. And she was the only one he trusted enough to call. She lied to me, not because she loved him, but because she was ashamed of her past weakness, afraid that if I knew, I would see her differently. As she spoke, I realized something painful. I had never asked her what she was afraid of. I had loved her strength. I had admired her independence. I had never made space for her vulnerability. Her secret wasn't another man. It was fear. And fear grows in silence. We sat together for a long time after that, not touching, not speaking, just existing in the truth that had finally surfaced. Trust didn't break in that moment. It changed shape. Forgiveness wasn't instant. Understanding took time. But honesty, once it entered the room, made it easier to breathe. When I finally put the letters back, my hands were shaking. I returned to bed and lay beside my wife, listening to her breathe, wondering how someone so close could feel so distant. The next days were heavy. Every word she spoke seemed to carry another meaning. Every smile felt rehearsed. I hated myself for watching her so closely, but I couldn't stop. I checked her phone while she showered. I crossed a line I had sworn I never would. The messages weren't explicit. They weren't romantic in a way that screamed betrayal, but they were personal, caring, deeply connected. There were questions about health, about emotional states, about days that felt difficult. There was reassurance, presence. I felt replaced, not physically, but emotionally. I didn't confront her immediately. Part of me hoped I was misunderstanding everything. Another part feared that speaking would make it real. The letters are no longer hidden. The attic no longer holds what we're afraid to face. We talk now, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially then. I learned that the most dangerous secrets aren't born from betrayal. They're born from fear we're too afraid to share.